For your horse to perform well, he needs his rider to be able to remain in balance and to be able to allow him to move freely. In order to achieve this, riders need to have suppleness and stability in their back to enable the spine to absorb and regenerate force. Many riders complain of back pain. This is often due to stiffness accumulating over time. These simple Franklin Method and Pilates techniques will allow you to become more aware of your spine's natural elasticity and movement. They will enable you to give your horse your very best seat and to maintain a healthy spine. For your spine to stay healthy, it needs movement in its full range daily. So that's movement in flexion, extension, lateral flexion and rotation. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you through a sequence of movements, some Pilates and some Franklin Method exercises that will move your spine in its full range. So let's start up on our hands and knees. You're going to place your hands directly underneath your shoulders and your knees directly underneath your hips. If your wrists are uncomfortable, you can always come up onto fists instead. So as we're here in this 4-point kneeling, just be aware of the length of your spine, be aware of the position of your head, your neck, your mid-back, your lower back, your sacrum and tailbone. And then we're going to see if we can move the whole length of the spine in flexion. So we'll move into the cat. We'll round the spine, tuck your pelvis underneath you and round the spine, and then just slowly extend it. Tucking your pelvis underneath you, rounding the whole spine, tucking your chin in, and then slowly extending it. Your spine has over 100 joints. Can you imagine all of them moving in flexion? They're all flexing, and then they're all extending. And we'll just do one more. Gently pressing into your hands, gently pressing into your knees and rounding your whole spine, and then slowly extending the whole spine. Okay, from here, lower yourself down onto your front. So you're going to lower yourself down onto your belly. And we'll take the arms nice and wide and have thumbs in line with your nose and your legs a little bit wider than hip width apart. So the aim of this exercise is to extend the upper back. It's a brilliant exercise for your posture. Start off just by lifting your head, your neck and your chest, and then slowly lower them back down. So it's a gentle back extension for your upper back. This is a brilliant exercise for your posture. Starting to lift your head, your neck, your chest away from the floor. There's just some extension from the very upper back. If that feels comfortable, you can press evenly into both hands and push all the way up into a full extension and then slowly return. So you start the same, you lift your head, neck and chest, press evenly into the hands and then slowly come all the way down. So we're extending every single joint in the spine. Bring your hands next to your shoulders, push yourself back into a rest position if that feels comfortable for your knees. So your feet are together, your knees are apart, bottom dropping onto your heels and arms reaching forward. To come into some lateral flexion for the spine, you stay in the rest position, but you're going to walk your arms and your upper body over to one side. So you feel a lovely stretch. Hold it for 3 deep breaths. And then you can wander back through the center and over to the other side and hold it for 3 deep breaths. Walk your hands back to the center, slide them in towards your knees and roll up to kneeling and come right up onto your knees. Bring your right foot forward and then we're going to shuffle the right foot a little bit further forwards. With your hands on this right knee, gently come into a little bit of a hip flexor stretch or a hip flexor opening. If we have a tight psoas major, that can pull into the lower back. So the psoas major attaches onto every single bone and disc in the lower back. And if it's tight, it can compress the lower back. So as you're feeling this opening across the front of the hip, you can have a sense that your lower back is being decompressed. Let's take another 2 breaths here. Press into your front foot. Bring your body weight back and let's swap sides. Right leg comes back, left leg comes forwards. Hands onto the left knee and then we'll gently lunge. You can have a sense of slightly tucking your bottom, tucking your pelvis underneath you to get a little bit more opening through the front of that right hip. And breathe deeply in and out through your nose. So we're not just opening up through the front of the hip, we're decompressing the whole of the torso, or at least up until the ribs, decompressing the lower back. Final breath, and then press into the left foot to come back and make your way down onto your back. You're going to lie down on the mat. So we're lying down on the mat with our feet just hip width apart in parallel, with the pelvis evenly placed on the mat, shoulders evenly placed on the mat, and arms just resting down by our sides. Remind yourself of the length of your spine. So the very bottom of the spine is the coccyx, the tailbone. Then we have the sacrum, the lower back, the lumbar spine, the thoracic, and the neck. We're going to see if we can start to move the very lower back just by rocking the pelvis towards us, imprinting the lower back into the mat, and then coming back to the start position. So to begin with, we're moving the tailbone, the sacrum, and the lower back. And then we can slowly start to creep up higher and higher, so we're involving more of the thoracic spine, the mid-back. So we're rippling up bone by bone, and then rippling down bone by bone. Can you imagine moving bone by bone, inch by inch of your spine? We'll do another 3 of these. So we should have even amount of weight through both feet. So you've got that even ground reaction force coming up into the pelvis. Even work through both of the legs. And then this beautifully articulate spine. A mobile spine is able to absorb force, it's able to be adaptable and to adapt to its demands. Last one. And then toe heel your feet together, stretch your arms out to the side with your palms facing up to the ceiling. Try and glue your ankles and your knees and your inner thighs together as we gently roll the knees one way and the head the other way. So we're moving into some rotation of the spine. Go as far as it feels comfortable, try and keep the knees touching, and then slowly make your way back to the center. Let's go the other way. The knees roll, for example, to the left, and the head will roll to the right, and then everything moves back to the center. Knees stay together, ankles stay together, and we're just gently rotating the spine. Keep breathing. We'll do one more to each side. So the knees twist one way, the lower spine twists one way, and the head and the neck twist the other way. So we're getting this lovely spiral, this lovely twist through the whole spine. And then when you've finished, you can just open up your feet to hip width apart, bring your arms down by your sides. Just take a moment and notice how your spine feels as you're lying on the mat. And then we're going to roll over onto one side and make your way up to standing. So that's a really lovely sequence that you could do daily because it's moving your spine in every single direction, flexion, extension, lateral flexion and rotation. And now I want to embody the amazing design of the spine, how the spine has these curves that are designed to absorb and then regenerate force, which is going to be really, really supportive when you're riding your horse. So can we take a look at the shape of the spine? From the side, can you see that it has many curves? It's kind of a string of curves. We have a curve at the back of the neck, we have a curve at the back of the ribs, a curve in the lower back, and then a curve where the sacrum is. It's not a rod. So these curves are mobile curves, and as they move, they allow your spine to absorb force and then regenerate force. So we're going to see if we can embody this, see if we can sense it in our own bodies. So with your fingertips, I just want you to touch your spine. So if we start with the neck, with your fingertips, you're just going to kind of run up and down the length of your neck and just notice that curve. Can you do the same thing for your lumbar spine, your lower back? Can you notice the curve there? And how about if you were to come over your sacrum and even down to your coccyx, can you notice that curve? And we'll do a similar thing, but now we're going to tap. just to wake up all of these little receptors around the joints and in the muscles and connective tissue. So we're going to tap the back of the neck, tap down to the tailbone, the sacrum, the lumbar spine, and do your best to tap your thoracic spine, your mid-back. Notice how long your spine is. We'll stop tapping, bring our arms down, and notice your posture after that input of communication from brain to body. Right hand is going to come to the back of the neck. Left hand comes to the lumbar spine, the lower back. So these curves, they are orientated in the same direction. They're moving forwards. Can you feel that? It's like they're curving away from your hands. So if you were to now bend your knees and straighten them, bend the knees and straighten them, and as you bend your knees, come into a little bit of hip flexion. So you don't tuck your bottom underneath you, that's something quite different. A little bit of hip flexion, you could lean forward slightly. Do you notice that there's a change in your spine? There's a change in these curves. Can you sense that? You could even bring your fingertips onto the bones of your spine. They might be more sensitive to feel that shift. Basically, the curves get deeper and then they get longer. So as you bend your knees and flex at your hips, the spinal curves get deeper and then they get longer. So can you think that? Can you think deeper curves, longer curves? Deeper curves, longer curves. Deeper curves, longer curves. Try a couple more. Your spine is acting like a spring. Deeper curves, longer curves. Deeper curves, longer curves. Absorbing force, regenerating force. Let's keep going, but a little bit faster. So almost like a little bounce, 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 bounce. Can you imagine this little spring in the spine? It's springing, it's absorbing and regenerating force. Keep going. So your spine is like this little spring, 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 absorbing and regenerating force. How about trying the opposite? So we'll slow it down and think as you bend your knees and flex your hips, your spine gets taller. We might often be told this, to keep good posture, we need to keep the spine long and to keep it tall. So just think that for a moment. Think as you flex at your hips and bend your knees, your spine gets taller. And then even taller as you come back up. You want the spine to be long. How does that feel compared to the spinal curves get deeper, the spinal curves get longer? Is there one that you prefer? So the biomechanics, the design of your spine is that the curves get deeper, and it's really because the sacrum moves. So as you flex at your hips, your sacrum nutates, it nods. So we know that we've got movement in the sitting bones, they go wide, and the sacrum nutates, the sacrum nods. So the base of the spine is tilting forwards. Hence the rest of the spine, it kind of concertinas in a way. It shortens and lengthens, shortens and lengthens. And if we can embody this, we're using this natural function of the spine. We're allowing the body to absorb and regenerate force, to use its natural three-dimensional use of movement instead of creating more tension. So final time, fingertips at the back of the neck and the lower back, and we're going to bend and stretch, and bend and stretch. And think buoyant spine, springy spine. My spine is moving, it's absorbing and regenerating force. Let's do 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your arms down and notice posture. So Eric Franklin says a lot, when you embody function, you improve your function. So if you're embodying something that isn't functional in your body, you just get tense, you get more tense, you create tension, and it can lead to injury. So really important to practice embodying function. So now you have this new imagery around the spinal curves and how they are a built-in design for you to absorb and regenerate force. And if you're practicing this in your daily life and when you're riding your horse, your body will greatly benefit from it, and so will your horse.